It's Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage, and you're listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair.
And you're tuned back in here to SMC Sports right here on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Sean McChesney here in the WMSC studios. And I would say right about now I'm about to have my biggest interview on my show, and it's only my third edition. Now on the phone, WOR pregame and postgame host of the New York Mets, Wayne Randazzo. Wayne, you're on SMC Sports. What's going on?
How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for agreeing to the interview. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Andrew.
All right. And so just to start, this is your first year with WOR. Just take me through what your first year has been like with the Mets and so far, and how you've enjoyed the experience so far, and what can you expect going forward?
Well, I mean, the experience has been great. I mean, it's a great opportunity to be with this ball club at a time where the team is on the rise. The arrow is pointing up for the Mets, and joining in at the right time. I mean, you're getting a chance to work with two pros on the air, and Howie Rose and Josh Lewin is great for me where I am in my career, trying to kind of get where they are, kind of accomplish the same things that they've done over the years. So it's been excellent. I'd say as far as the pre and post opportunities in Major League Baseball, this has to be one of the best.
Absolutely, Wayne. And I just kind of wanted to point it out. I don't know necessarily if you remember me, but you did an interview on Craig's Call with Craig Gorbanoff, and myself and Craig were both a part of that interview back in February with you.
Yeah, I remember. That was one of the first ones I did since getting the job, and I'm glad to be back on with you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. And that was a lot of fun, and I look forward to what we have going forward, as well as your career as well. And but just looking now towards the Mets, and the first thing that I had to ask you was about the condition of David Wright. Last night he met the media to address his spinal stenosis situation. And I looked up and did a little bit of research myself, and some websites were telling me that his career is pretty much over. Others are telling me that he'll be fine as long as he rehabs the right way and, doesn't overdo it. What have you seen and what have you taken from this situation? Can you see David Wright conquering the injury, or more like many others, do you think this is the end of the captain's career?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, that's the million-dollar question. David Wright, is he going to be able to play? Is he going to be able to play at the level that we're used to seeing? And that's something that he's trying to, figure out himself right now. He doesn't know the answer. I don't think the doctors know the answer. I don't think Sandy Alderson knows the answer right now. So they're trying to get him tested and get him evaluated and get him to pass the physical tests that are necessary to even begin baseball activities. And whenever that is done, he can start swinging the bat again. He can start playing again, and he just needs to rest and rehab right now. And they hope to have him back at some point this season. I wouldn't say that there's a great deal of optimism that he's going to be able to play every day and play at an all-star level, but I think they do feel like he can come back this year and contribute to this team.
Yeah, and I hope to see him back this season as well. I feel like he's kind of getting into, I wouldn't say the twilight of his career, but more of the better years of his career, especially with the Mets team that he has going forward. But looking now to another subject, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Wilmer Flores. Sort of a little bit more than what we expected. He's turned into a great hitter, but his defense still has a little bit more work. Do you think Wilmer Flores, by the end of the year, will be the Mets' answer for shortstop, or do you think it's time for the Mets to start shopping?
Well, I don't think the Mets are going to look for another shortstop. I think if they feel like David Wright's going to be out long term, they have some options to move around the infield with Dilson Herrera when he returns. Maybe he could play second base and Daniel Murphy can return to third, or maybe they do shift Wilmer Flores to third and put Ruben Tejada back at shortstop for the time being. I don't know that they're going to go look for a shortstop right now, because I think Wilmer Flores has grown into the position in their eyes, and that he's gotten to be a better defender, and certainly he can hit better than most shortstops in the majors. And I think people forget that Wilmer's only 23 years old. He's a young guy. I mean, in a lot of terms, he's still a prospect. I mean, he's younger than Chris Bryant. I think people don't realize that Wilmer Flores is at the stage in his career where he's just trying to figure out the big leagues.
Yeah, and and don't get me wrong, Wilmer Flores has proved to be a great hitter. It's just, his defense is kind of worrying a lot of people. It is getting better, though, which is really, putting my blood pressure level down a little bit. But Now looking towards another guy in the Mets infield, Ruben Tejada. In his last 5 games, he's been batting absolutely incredible. A batting average of, I believe, over 470. But now, if you look in the long term, if David Wright is out long term, can you see somebody like, Ruben Tejada being the answer to third or shortstop, or maybe even Murphy? Or even can you expect a trade to take place maybe towards the deadline? Can you see maybe something like that happening as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at every option right now. Dilson Herrera still might factor into this thing. Matt Reynolds still might factor into it if he can get going again at AAA. He kind of slumped in the month of May at Las Vegas. So they have internal options they're looking at. They're going to continue to look externally. It doesn't seem like they want to get rid of somebody that they feel like has great value. And if they're unwilling to trade somebody that they feel like has a high amount of value, it's tough to get somebody in return with a high amount of value. So it depends on what they feel like they can get, what they feel like they can give up, and what they feel like they have inside before they start making moves.
Yeah, and definitely a huge situation when it comes to the Mets, especially with now Wright possibly being out long-term. Honestly, I feel like it would be the best thing for him to maybe reevaluate him after the All-Star break to see if he's ready. But if I were a medical staff, I would push him back to the All-Star break. You don't want to risk it. But now, looking at this NL East, I still feel like it's wide open, especially with the Nats who are starting to cool down a little bit. Mets are on and off when this team gets healthy. Can you see the Mets making a run towards the Nationals and the NL East crown? Or do you see potential wild card and maybe, or even another year missing the playoffs?
Well, I mean, any of those options can happen. It's a long season. A lot of things can happen. There's 110, 109 games left. So you all of those things are on the table for this Mets team, and it depends on how they play. I mean, they control their own destiny right now. They can go out there and they can win, 50 of the next 80 and put themselves right in a position for the final week and a half of the season, a couple of weeks of the season, to be in the running to win the National League East. Or maybe they'll just win some, lose some, and kind of just trek along to be a team that does challenge for a wild card. Or maybe they'll collapse altogether. You don't really know because that's how this game is. You got to play it through, see what happens. I think if they stay healthy, get healthier, and get everybody back, there's no reason why this team shouldn't challenge for a playoff spot, whether that's Washington. I mean, that depends. Washington won 96 games last year. If they go back to that type of play, they're going to be hard to catch. But if they stay around 88 to 92 wins, well, then the Mets could be a factor in the NL East.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but like you said, if the Nationals go off the run that they did last year, I feel like there's no shot for the Mets to win the East. I still think there's a possibility for the wild card with the way they've been playing. But tonight, Dylan G returns to the mound. First time, I believe it was since a few weeks ago. And which means tonight is the beginning of the 6-man rotation. What is your opinion on the 6-man rotation, and do you think it's going to help, or do you think it's going to decline the pitcher status in the Mets rotation?
Well, I mean, it's tough to say because if you have a bad start, Noah Syndergaard had a rough start last night. Obviously, it was on proper rest. He gave up 7 runs on 10 hits. Well, if Jacob deGrom goes out his next time and gives up 7 runs, is it because he just had a bad night, or is it because he had the extra rest? I mean, that's something that you have to really kind of wait and see. It's going to take 3 or 4 turns around the rotation before you realize if this thing is working or not. What it will do is extend these pitchers over the course of a full season. You want to have Matt Harvey available for September to October, deGrom, Syndergaard, all the Steven Matz too. Steven Matz is a part of this. He's been so good at AAA. He should be in the major leagues. There's no room for him right now. Yeah. And when he does come up, he's going to have to fit into the 6-man rotation, and he's going to have to log innings and get through a full season too. So you have to think about all of these pitchers, your playoff hopes, and the fact that you need to make sure these guys are ready and healthy for that time of year. If you let them go every 5 days, one of 2 things has to happen. Either you're going to shut them down in early September like the Nationals did with Strasburg a few years ago, or you're going to have to shut them down for a few weeks at a time during the season. So they feel like this is the lesser of all evils, and this is what they're going to do, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and while you guys are on the West Coast, you finish up in San Diego tonight at 9 o'clock. I believe WR pregame is at 8 p.m., correct?
8:30.
8:30, okay. So I'm a big believer in momentum builders, and we finish up San Diego tonight, Arizona 4 games starting tomorrow, and then a home series with San Francisco Giants, who has been playing extremely well baseball lately, and then a weekend series with Atlanta, which I will be in attendance for. But just going off your opinion, how important are these next few series for the Mets for them to gain a little bit of momentum in the NL East?
Sean, I'll tell you one thing about momentum. It doesn't exist from day to day. When the new day starts, it's a new day. We saw a great example of it this week here in San Diego. Jacob deGrom throws a 2-hit shutout through 8 innings. The Mets romp the Padres, no problem, 7-0, and the next night they lose 7-2. There is no momentum from day to day in baseball. There is momentum within a game. If you get a couple of runs and you're ahead and you fall behind and then you come back later, all of a sudden the momentum has changed. That is a possibility within a game. I don't think it exists from day to day, and certainly doesn't exist from series to series. These guys have to go about their business on a daily basis the same way. They have to come to the ballpark, and you saw when they started losing a bunch in May, they kept saying that. We have to just focus on the next day and keep our approach, and that's true in the game of baseball. Whether you're winning 11 in a row or losing 8 in a row, you can't change things. You have to come with the same mentality, because the next day is a different day, and the next series is a different series. That being said, every series is important. If you win 2 games out of 3, you end up with 108 wins for the season. So if you can continue to win series, you're going to have as much success as possible. So yes, the Diamondbacks next, the Mets would like to win that series. They go back home and they play some teams that are going to be a little tougher. San Francisco is going to come into town for that first series after the off day, but you have these series in front of you, and you do expect to win them. And the pitching for the Mets makes them feel that they can beat anybody and win any series.
Yeah, and we've just hit the top of the hour here. You're listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Sean McChesney here on SMC Sports. We're talking with WOR Mets pregame and postgame host Wayne Randazzo. And Wayne, before I let you go, I need to ask you about the 6-man rotation again. I feel like, and I heard it's going to run through August at least. And then it might go back to 5. They might stay with 6. But can you see maybe something like John Neese or Dylan G being sent to the bullpen if they're not performing well? I know John Neese is 1-5 in his last 7 starts. Can you see Neese possibly being moved to the bullpen at some point this season?
I mean, September things tend to change based on the fact that you're in the pennant race or not in the pennant race. Things always change in September. So you never know. September can kind of take on a playoff-type atmosphere for a team that's in the race. And at that point, things could develop into a 5-man rotation. You might see those guys go to the bullpen. You never know. I mean, somebody might land on the disabled list, and you might need to see Matz come up and join a 6-man rotation. They feel like things will shake themselves out, and this is just a way to prolong everybody's season, really, when you think about a 6-man rotation. So they feel like this is the way to go. In September, could things change? Could somebody go to the bullpen? Sure. Could they make a move and trade one of these starting pitchers by the end of July? Sure, they could. And if they're in the running for October, then you have to think about a playoff rotation and have some long relievers that have long starter innings available. So there's a lot to be had here. And the good thing is that it's June 3rd. The Mets are only a half a game out of first place, and all of these things are important to them this year, because they should be a team that 3 months from now, going into September, has a legitimate shot to be in the postseason.
Yeah, I feel like the Mets definitely do have that shot at the postseason this year, something that Mets fans have not been able to say in the last maybe 5 or 6 years. Wayne, thank you so much for calling in and giving us your insight. I really appreciate it.
All right, Sean, no problem.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
All right.
That was Wayne Randazzo, WOR Mets pregame and postgame host for Mets baseball. You want to listen to his stuff tonight? It's 8:30 Eastern Time on WOR 710 Radio. For Mets pregame. First pitch is at 9 o'clock on WOR. Howie Rose, I would assume, has the call. And on SNY as well. We are going to take a quick break here on SMC Sports. So we just had an interview with Wayne Randazzo. Coming up later in the hour, we'll be discussing more MLB and a little bit of NFL. Not much in the NFL, but there are some stuff that should be addressed. And then the 3 to 4 o'clock hour will be Stanley Cup Finals. Nick Flaherty will be in studio with me. And hopefully Jeff McAdam from Orlando, Florida, news reporter and former Tampa Bay Lightning reporter will be on the phone with us. So you're listening to SMC Sports, and we will be right back.